Hey guys, it's just Caden. So today I decided to go back to the original format where I would talk and draw because I found that I kind of missed that format a little bit. Now, to be fair, I'm going to continue recording the videos and putting them on YouTube as well, the ones with the songs, but I wanted to go back to this one as well because I kind of missed it. And also there was something I really wanted to put on here. Anyways, without any further ado, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. And let's get into the video. So, if you looked at the title of this video, I wanted to talk about a few of my OCs that I was writing for this book. And essentially, this book is going to be called Choose Your Class. And so, Choose Your Class, it was based on like these RPG video games that I used to play, the normal types of nerdy things that a nerdy kid would be looking at. But eventually this thing started to become something unique and new and fantasy-like and something worth sharing. So here I am, and I'm going to be talking about it, sharing my thoughts on the whole concept. So essentially, here's where the story starts. So you have this other planet called Akirama, and you have these people living there who, they're actually human. They've come from Earth, but you have these humans here, and the humans are given magic. Now, where does this magic come from? The people don't know. They just know it somehow comes from the planet. But the people use this magic, and it makes their lives better. That is, it makes their lives better until it doesn't. It's not a good story without a conflict, is it? So, what ends up happening is that the people have this magic, and for whatever reason, these people are just fighting with the magic. And then, with this magic, there are these fighting styles that are introduced called classes, and these are as follows: Knight, Mage, Giant, Gunner, Texter, Healer, Assassin, Beast, Merfolk, Shadower, Demon, Angel, and Brawler. And so those are all the classes, and essentially that's a lot, but they get introduced to the story slowly in a way that it's not too overwhelming. But those classes are essentially what we have to work with. And these are the ways that the people fight in these wars. For example, let's say you're a demon. So you have the ability, you're a human still, but you have the ability to transform into a demon temporarily and then transform back into a human. You get to use the fire powers and claws of a demon, while also still being a human. And the reason why this is beneficial is because it helps you survive. Because in this world, the people are fighting to survive, literally fighting to survive, as opposed to what we have here where you're fighting to survive, but you're really just earning to survive. It's the same concept as far as I see it. Alright, let's take a momentary pause just to listen to this song. This is Zamu's theme. It's on YouTube actually, but it's nice that I'm listening to Zamu's theme, having you listen to it while drawing Zamu. Alright, now back to the video. So essentially we have these classes, all these magical fighting styles that these people use on this magical planet. And what's happening is that there's a war. So the real cause of this war, the people don't know what it is, but the people know that there's a war going on. Well, they kind of know, but this war, it's so ingrained in their society that they don't really realize it's a problem. The people are all seen living normal lives, doing normal things, and just fighting. And it's very well normalized. And so we have this protagonist, and her name is Tone or Tanya, and she's a girl. She's 11 years old, and she's getting ready to fight in this war. before even starting middle school. And so when the story starts, we have this girl, and she wakes up on the last day of summer, and she realizes that she forgot something very important. She forgot to choose her class or her magical fighting style. So she goes to school after waking up and having a morning headache. It's her daily thing. So after this whole headache, and after talking with her mom and almost crying, she goes to school and she chooses her class. Also, she stops at the mall attempting to buy something, but she's like, this is all like ugly. I don't really think I want to buy any. She instead buys cookies and water, which the water will be used later on. And she goes to the school and she takes the class. She takes the test for the gunner class. So her mother was a gunner and so was her father. So she takes this test, as one would. And she ends up seeing a grade of 140 points out of 200, or a 70. So that's it. She's happy. She starts celebrating because she passed. Except that she didn't pass. That was actually the score on top that displays how many points a student would have needed to pass. She actually ended up scoring a 20 out of 200, or a 10%. So at that point, she was like really freaking out, because the thought was that, the people said at least, that if you failed to choose your class before the last day of summer, before 6th grade, you would get executed by the government. Now, this was an incentive to get more people to take the test so that they would then, fight in the wars. As far as why these children are fighting in wars, we'll get to that. But but these children, they're just fighting in these wars. By the way, we're not gonna get into this video, which is why you need to subscribe, because you'll see it later. So hit that button real quick. But anyways, so we got this girl Tone, and so she fails the test and she starts crying, as one would. Apparently she's gonna get executed by the government, and worse than that, the only thing she'd ever wanted to do, she couldn't do. So she's just sitting here crying. She's like, dang, this is terrible. Like, why is this, like, how is this a life that anyone can live, and why is it my life to live? And eventually, these people blast through the door with shotguns. It's these evil people from the Souza clan. Which one of y'all got money? One of the bandits said. And then Tone was like, Tone actually had about $200 in her pocket, but she pretended she didn't have anything. All right, get them, boys, the boss asked, telling all of the guards to take down as many people as they could so that they could get as much money as they could. Sooner than Tone realized it, all the teachers were down and all the students were down. No one was able to take out these bandits. And there was only one person left. Her. So Tone was like, what the heck? What am I supposed to do here? There's a girl who can't shoot a gun with a gun. And then we got this sword here that one of the bandits dropped. This magic staff that one of the teachers dropped. And then just this gun in my pocket. Like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, like, God knows. She said, quote, God knows I can't shoot this thing, referring to the gun. So why would he put me in a situation like this? And then Tone looked at the sword and she picked it up. She went up to the boss and fought him. It was an interesting fight sequence. You should read the book when it comes out, 2025. But after the fight, she managed to defeat the boss without even using magic, with a sword, and she had no sword practice at all. And so she was able to take this guy out using basically nothing but her brain. And of course the people cheered and everyone was like set free and all that. And then she decided to take the knight test because, if she's going to be swinging a sword, she should just be a knight. So she took the knight test and passed. And then she came back home that night to her mom. And her mom was like, wait, Where's the gun? Did you fail the gunner test? And she said to her mom, well, I kind of did. And her mom's like, oh my gosh, that's so horrible. I'm sorry. Is there anything we can... And then Tone, she was like, okay. But the good news is I did pass the night test. And so her mom was, for a moment, she didn't know what to say, which I don't know what I would say either. And then eventually she said something like this. She said, well, it might be the right path for you. I mean, sometimes we don't know what God wants for us until He shoves it in front of our faces. They're a very religious household. And so, essentially, she was, they took a moment to let that set in, like the fact that this might have been the right option, the right path that Tone just didn't see. And then eventually, Rose was like, well, anyways, why don't we enjoy this delicious pizza that the pizza man delivered, trying to change the topic. And so they ate the pizza, and the vibes were good. Until eventually, Tone was like, hey, Mom, why don't we ever talk about that? Still chewing on the pizza. And then her mom was like, Tone, we just don't okay. She was attempting to avoid the topic entirely. And so Tone was like, if you keep dodging the question, there will never be an answer for it, Mom. She was starting to get irritated. And then what ended up happening was essentially they argued for a moment. And at one point, Rose started crying. And at that point, it all made sense to Tone that really she wasn't even mad at Tone. She was just upset with the circumstances. Something was wrong, and Rose just wasn't saying it. So, Rose is her mom, Tone's mom. She just wasn't saying it, and so Tone was she just decided to leave it alone. She realized it wasn't worth, making her mom cry. Just not at this moment, it wasn't worth making her mom cry. After that, Rose was like, oh, by the way, it's time for you to go to bed. Because, there's school in the morning. And have a good night's rest and all that. And good night. The reality is, Rose probably went to go cry that night. Yeah, that's the first chapter. At least Tone's perspective, the first chapter. And then there's another perspective of the other protagonist, Zamu. So these two stories are happening simultaneously, and they're both self-insert characters of different types. So Tone represents a lot of the positive things in myself, the friendliness, the intelligence, and overall just the good vibes she brings and carries around with her. And Zamu, the male protagonist, represents a lot of my more negative traits. The self-doubt, the pity, the self-pity, the rage, the silent rage, all those types of things. Now, he's just as intelligent and just as kind, but he's much less generous to himself and to others as well. He's got a very cold demeanor. But essentially, so we have this guy Zamu. And essentially, he starts his journey. So you just see there's this kid, and he's over here just, he's waking up his siblings. So he starts with his oldest sister, because his oldest sister is very lazy, and she just doesn't like it. So he wakes her up lazily. And she wakes up, yells at him a bit, and then that's it. And then he goes to his other siblings. He goes to his siblings, Zay Zay and JJ. They're twins. Zay Zay's the boy and JJ's the girl. So Zamu says to his little brother his little brother Zay Zay. He says, Zay Zay, I doubt you could get up before your sister JJ, even if you tried to. And then Zay Zay said, bet, watch it happen right now. So he leapt up from the bunk bed and landed safely on the ground. Oh, by the way, these characters are living in a tent. It's a long story, but essentially they live in a clan, which is the opposing form of the city-state. That'll be another video entirely. But that's what happens there. So he jumps up from the bed and lands safely on the ground. And so JJ, she's a genius. She was trying to tell Zay Zay before he leapt up that Zamu was just trying to play with their heads. He already knew that Zay Zay would be able to get up over JJ. He just wanted to see it happen. And so what ends up happening is that the two they talk with Zamu, and then Zamu asks them to make breakfast. So they do. And that's that. So Zamu goes to the rest of the siblings. He then goes to his sister, Jazz. And he looks in the room and he sees like that she's just sitting there, like sitting up in her bed, just sitting there with a blank stare. And then Zamu's like, I'll wait until later. So he goes to another room and he goes to his brother Zach. And Zach is another one of his younger siblings. He's sitting there reading a book. He doesn't talk to Zamu about this book. And that's about it. So then Zamu leaves the room awkwardly. So he leaves the room and he goes to his other sister, Jayla. She's the youngest. She's a baby. I think she's like 4 at this point in the story. But he wakes up Jayla. He has to poke her, and then Jayla's like, I'm not waking up. She just says no. He turns the other way, and Zamu's like, come on, you gotta wake up. And then she's like, no. And then Zamu has to convince her. He says, look, they're making breakfast right now. You can convince them to make pancakes, but you have to wake up to be able to do it. So she's like, okay, I'll do it for you. So Jayla wakes up, and so the only one who hasn't woken up by this point is Zamu's little sister, Jazz, who was sitting there in her room just staring blankly. And then suddenly there's a thud noise. Bang! Just a huge thud in the tent. And then everyone's like, what the heck is going on? So everyone goes to Jazz's room in the tent, except for Jade, Zamu's older sister, the lazy one. She doesn't really go. It's as if she already knows what's going on. So Zamu goes to check on Jazz, and she's on the ground. She's just laying there on the ground. And then he's freaking out. He's like, did she just die? And then he pokes her a couple times, and then he can see that she's still breathing. So he's like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm so glad. I'm so very glad. She's okay. Guys, she's fine. She's okay. She's just sleeping. She's just sleeping. So what ends up happening then is that there's this whole flashback scene where Zamu remembers going up to this mountain with his little brother, Zay Zay. This whole story doesn't happen in this order, but whatever. Zamu remembers going up to the mountain with Zay Zay. And they went up this mountain because Zay Zay wanted to learn to use his beast magic early. Remember, that's one of the 12 classes. It's going to be another video. They go up the mountain, right? And so Zamu and Zay Zay, they're on this way up to the mountain. And suddenly there's this wolf pack that comes out. It's not an entire pack at this point. It's just one wolf, but it's going to become a pack later on. So they're fighting, and Zamu's like, okay, I have magic. I can turn into a hummingbird. That's it. That's all he can do. But he's like, I'll use that magic as good as I can. You just get out of here, Zay Zay. You go choose your class up there at the top of the mountain. So Zay Zay was like, fine. So he went up to the top of the mountain to go choose his class and to become magical. And Zamu fought these wolves. Now, the thing about the magic is, essentially, you choose, if you can defeat an animal in battle. If you're a beast, you can gain the power of that animal. Or in other words, so Zamu defeats one of these wolves in this pack, he can turn into a wolf himself. And, yeah, that's essentially it. So, he goes, up to find Zay Zay, at the top of the mountain. But he finds him at the doorstep of where he's supposed to be, and he's like, Zay Zay, why are you on the ground? Zay Zay's just there on the ground. And so he must have been out somehow. So there's also a note attached to him, and Zamu reads it, and he's like, it reads this guy, and this guy says, yeah, so I went and I knocked out your brother. This is a sign that I'm coming after you and your family, so you better watch out. Signed, the Starfish Killer. And so Zamu's like, who is the Starfish Killer? And he goes up the mountain, he finds this nurse who heals him, and they choose, Zay Zay chooses this class, the Beast, and then they go back home. Then is the clan migration, another long story. I'll explain that in the clans video, in the same clans video, but there's a clan migration. And what ends up happening is that they all go, the entire clan of people, they move to another part of the planet. And during this migration, Zamu runs into the same guy who wrote the note, the Starfish Killer. And essentially, it's an interesting fight. I'm not going to describe it because it's crazy. Read the book when it comes out. But essentially, he challenges the Starfish Killer, and it's crazy. And so, that's essentially a little bit of a tidbit into the story of Chicha Class. Written entirely by me. It's my work of art. But if you do want to hear more about it, I would say definitely hit the subscribe button. And I would say look for the book when it comes out. I'll be posting on that on YouTube at the very least. So yeah, definitely do keep up with like the YouTube and all that. As soon as they allow me to, I'll post like community things on YouTube. But I'm not sure how to do that yet. But anyways, bye. Thank you for watching the video. And do subscribe again. You will be glad you did.